Morning, everyone. Rapture Kitty's running around here someplace. I don't know where he got off to. Let me see if I can get a little bit of the sun on me just for some natural color. I've got my jacket on. It's in the high 30s. Now I know there's people going to say, well, it's 47 degrees below zero here, and we don't live where you are. We normally have heat here. It's called Hotlanta for a reason. So when we get the winter, fortunately it's not real bad, but we can get snow. Speaking of snow, those that are suffering in the Carolinas, they got snow last night. And a lot of them live in tents. I appreciate that. So we're still doing tabernacles, and I live in a tent. So I get to celebrate with them. It is possible that I might be out of here, we all might be out of here before I get out of this. So for our theme today, the rapture is closer than ever before. Now that's a true statement without giving a date. Now when I listen to all of the watchers that are out there, and there's a number of us that are talking, we're all basically given the same answer. Someone asked Brenda Weltner, I don't know if you watch her, you got to take it with a grain of salt, a lot of this stuff, because some of the stuff is in the prophetic range that we don't know how to properly interpret yet. But she's a good, faithful teacher. But in any case, they asked her about, well, what's going to happen if the timeline is wrong and we're not out of here till next year? And she goes, I really don't see that. So I'm not even going to think about it until we get to that point. Everybody's expecting the rapture soon. Before the election would be a good time so that we're not here to vote. It's going to be an interesting winter for the world. And of course, it's going to hit. What's the Bible say about fleeing Jerusalem? Pray that it's not in winter. Well, that's coming up. Israel will have to leave at some point in time. But I don't think that's this winter. It could be, but I don't think so. I think we got a little time for them. But for us, nope. We got to be out of here. So, we saw how bad things got up north. Who's this? There's our ranger going by. He technically doesn't have to be here all the time, but he has to come and check on things, make sure everything's okay. Okay, you saw how things got bad from the hurricane. Everywhere that it came, it caused destruction. And pretty much everywhere that it destroyed stuff, the people were on their own or relied heavily on their friends and neighbors, majority of which were Christians. Christians always step in to help. And they're feeding the people up in North Carolina that don't have food. I heard today that they just got the water back in Asheville. Not in the surrounding areas, but in town, because it took out their water treatment plant and a bunch of other stuff, that hurricane. So they're going to slowly get back to normal, but a lot of them are in tents. And I was listening to Barry Ah talk, and they were helping, and he said that any closer you get to the disaster, the less supplies you could find. So they had to actually go outside of the disaster areas to find supplies. I mean, they needed sleeping bags because their house was down the river in pieces. Tents because their house was gone. Continue to pray for them because, as we saw very plainly, the government doesn't care. Not one bit. fact, they want us all dead. That's the World Economic Forum mantra. Kill off everybody so we don't have as many people to be dictators over. Now, I've paraphrased it, but that's essentially what they want. Okay, so you got to survive until we get out of here. Now, it may only be a month. Actually, we've got, 3 weeks till the election? Come on, Light, work with me. I don't like to have my tent in the picture. It spoils the scenery. All right. So you have to survive until we're out of here. And as long as you're prepping and storing up food supplies, see, they're out of food. Now, obviously, if your house gets blown away and your food's in the house, you're in trouble. Put it in the basement if you can. Keep it in a dry spot in the basement. But if you've got food supplies and we're gone and you still got family members left behind, give them instructions. Leave tracks along with the food. So you got to make sure you survive, because we're trying to help one person at a time get to heaven. There have been conversions, people turning either to God or back to God because of this disaster. Now, that's not why it happened. It's giving the world a taste of what's coming, and it's showing the world that our government doesn't care just before the election. Trump hit the ground. Biden flew over. There's a big difference now. Trump isn't the best man in the world, but he may be the best president. But I don't think he's going to make it. All right. We're in Sukkot right now, as I mentioned. So turn with me to Deuteronomy 16:16. We're back into the law. 3 times a year, all your males shall appear before the Lord your God in the place which he chooses. God chooses. At the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. This is a gathering, everybody. And they live in little booths to remember what the Egyptians did to the Israelis back then. They made them flee into the desert where they didn't have any infrastructure, no houses. Even the temple was a tent. Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty-handed. Sacrifices. And people follow that, because this was the law. If you could follow the law perfectly, you'd get to heaven. Problem is, nobody could. So God had to look at people and see their righteousness as faith, not their works. And it's the time we're in. If this isn't it, don't give up. But all of our assumptions, because we have to read prophecy without a prophet around to explain it. We don't have Joseph to interpret dreams for us. We have to kind of look at this and try to figure it out ourselves. Trying to use the Bible as a guide. As Barry Odd does with his timeline, he shows that things happen on appointed times. So we're going to do another recap of our rapture verse here in Revelation 12:1. Oh, I've got Rapture Kitty sitting right next to me, and he wanted to get on camera, yes. Okay, now he's done that, so now it's back to meow, back to running around. Okay, Revelation 12:1. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Now, we had this in 2017, and we've already been past the 7-year mark of that. So God's warning to the world has come and gone. Has the world figured it out? We have, but the world hasn't. 12:2. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. God loves to do this stuff where he ties a verse into two different events. One, this is Jesus, but we're reading in the book of Revelation, which is prophecy. So we are like Christ because of the Spirit of God in us. So this applies to Christians. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 diadems on their heads, on his heads. His tail drew 1/3 of the stars of heaven and threw them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was all ready to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Remember, Herod ordered the babies 2 years old and under to be killed in hoping to eliminate Christ. 12:5. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron, and her child was caught up to his throne. So we are to rule with the rod of iron. When we look forward, we're not going to do it now, to the millennium, Christ rules with the rod of iron, but he doesn't rule by himself. We come back. So we're not done with this earth. Even though we're going to get raptured, we're not done. We're going to get our new bodies and probably some one-on-one instruction on how to rule the world with Christ. Not in place of, with. We don't do anything without him. Then the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God, and they shall feed her for 1,260 days, 3.5 years. And this is the part that I like. 12:7. Satan is going to get thrown out of heaven here. A war broke out in heaven. Michael, who's the fighter for God, he's part of the fighting angels, fought with the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought. But they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old called the devil. This is from the Bible, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to earth, and his angels were cast out with him. I look forward to seeing that. Then I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ have come. The accuser of our brethren, who accused them before our God day and night. So that's what Satan does. He lives in heaven, and he goes up there to tattletale on us. But Jesus has already forgiven us, so there's nothing for him to do. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. This is the time we're living in. This is about to happen. You're being caught up into heaven there, and was that 12:3 or 4? What was that? The word there, yeah, it's in 5. Her child was caught up to God in his throne. That's the rapture. The word is harpazo. It's the one definitive place in the Bible that talks about the rapture. The other definitive place is in Thessalonians, when Paul is writing. So those people who say there is no rapture don't know the Bible. I get people all the time criticizing my teaching, claiming that I don't know the Bible. This is why I read you the verses. You don't have to take my word for it. It's right here, and I will write the verse number down at the bottom when I edit this. We don't have to make stuff up. It's all right there written down for everyone to see. And it doesn't matter what your translation. It may not use the word harpazo because that's Greek. It says caught up. Take that over to the Latin Bible and you get rapturo, where we get the word rapture. So be ready, everybody. I don't know how much more damage this world's going to get before we get out of here. These are the birth pains, the hurricanes, 2 of them, birth pains. Right after the Revelation 12 sign anniversary. Wars and rumors of wars are going on. The United States just sent troops to Israel. And the United States, using the B-2 bomber for the first time, just dropped bombs on Yemen because they've been trying to destroy trade in the Gulf over there. There needs to be a war there, so when Satan gets here, he can bring peace. It won't do him any good to come back and bring peace if there's already peace. So it's set for him. Our digital money is in place, not implemented, but in place. That's going to happen soon. One of our billionaire men will be the Antichrist. Which one? I don't know. It's going to be one of the younger ones. It won't be one of the older ones because he's going to have some kind of an appeal to the world. You know, it won't be Klaus Schwab or George Soros or I don't even think Bill Gates. But it might be Musk or Bezos or there's a number of billionaires in the world that are involved in this one world government. See, the Antichrist person has been helping the harlot to get the world ready for him. I think it's probably about ready. Stay safe, stay prepared, do your work, and I'll see you in the clouds. God bless.